Hello, hello. Welcome. Birdie here with Redbird Designs, and we are doing the jar-based tutorial today. So if you're able to hop on, say hi, let me know where you're watching from. What are you doing today? Are you crafting along or just watching? And we'll craft later. Sometimes that works best for me. When I'm watching a tutorial online, I like to watch it and then do it later. And I like to watch it and kind of skip to the parts where I need the instruction. Um, so if that's you, that's okay. You do what's best for you. Where is my timer? Trying to have that on hand. Oh, there it is. It's under my snacks, my Gardettos. All right, let me grab my colors here. There we are. So I am using just a light blue on the jar. So let's talk about the jar real quick and the pieces that you get. The jar is probably the easiest one out of them all, but it's so pretty. I love mason jars. We use mason jars for drinking. I use mason jars for storage. I just love them. So anyways, and I love decorating with them, and so that's kind of where this came from. So you have your base. It has the score marks to kind of give you some dimension here that makes it look like there's reflection, there's glass. We can kind of see through the jar to the bottom there. The score marks are little cuts in the top of the wood that the laser makes that you can just paint right over, and you'll still be able to see those. Then you have a top piece, and this top front piece, I should say, looks like this. And this is kind of the rim of the jar where you have the lines here that indicate the ridges for screwing on your cap. Okay, so you have that. And then this has a cutout that the tabs sit in. So these all have tabs, and this cutout is just a little bit bigger. It kind of gives you the flexibility to shift this around a little bit depending on the item. And the tabs kind of are different sizes. I'm not sure why I did that in retrospect, but it works anyways. So those will sit there, right? This gets attached here, and then this piece is your back piece. So we sandwich that, and it creates that little groove there or tab slot that our inserts will slot into. So you don't really need to paint this back piece unless you want to paint the entire back piece. Then that's up to you. I'm not going to do that today, just to keep it to the 30 minutes. And then you have your slotted base that holds the piece here, like that. Okay. So with this one, we are painting 3 pieces. Get a fresh sheet out here. So just somebody asked me, and I thought I'd share with you my paint setup here. So mason jar, right? And this little bowl my mom made for me. That just holds my mason jar, makes it look pretty. This tray here is from the Dollar Tree. And it's in the school/office section. It's kind of an office desk organizer, I guess. But I put my cup there. This holds all my makeup wedges. And then this is where I put my paint. And I use a box of wax sheets. This is kind of something like they use in a bakery. You know, the disposable wax sheets to get donuts. That's what it reminds me of. But anyways, I picked this up off Amazon a few years ago and haven't even used it. I actually have two of them. It came in a pack of two. Let me bring out the second one. So it will last me quite a while. I had gotten two because we had two painters here. My daughter was working with me for a while and she was painting as well, so it was nice to have two at the different desks. Anyways, you probably don't need two. This is 500 sheets. Like I said, I've had it for a couple years, and I just love it. You could use just a roll of wax paper and cut it down into sheets and have it pre-cut and ready to go if you wanted to go that route. You could use parchment paper. You could use a paper plate. A lot of people like using tinfoil. I've seen a lot of crafters online use tinfoil. Now, I don't like that because the sound bothers me, to be honest. It's the total crinking, crinkly metal sound. But a lot of people like it because they can use an area and easily just fold over, and use another area and then fold it again and use another area. Because tinfoil, the paint doesn't seep through it, it's a little more flexible. You can get more uses out of it. So keep that in mind too if you're looking for something like that. This wax paper, I keep it folded. I keep it folded, and it doesn't seep through unless I get a lot. But even then, I mean, that's why I have it on there. You can kind of see some areas where it's kind of seeped through if I'm getting really heavy in my painting. So, anyways, just wanted to share that with you guys real quick. Probably more information than you need. Now I'm going to be over 30 minutes, but I know this is going to be a quick one, so I knew I had a little extra time to gossip, to gab. All right, let's get started. This project, I am using a white, a soft blue. This one's called Soft Sky. And then this Ocean City blue for some little darker areas. Really, this is going to be the main color here, this light blue. You can do it any color you want. You could go just white with just a titch of blue in it. You could do a green mason jar. You could, do all sorts of different things. So there's no rules that say you have to paint it blue. Okay. The other tools that I'm going to be using is baby wipes. We're going to use baby wipes to get the soft blended color that gives us the look of glass. So we're going to use that. And then I am going to use probably a small little liner brush like this for some accents. And then you could hand write in ball. You could do your own name. You could do a heart. I think I did a heart on the last one. I don't have it with me right this second. But you can do a little design here, maybe a little flower. But we'll do that at the end. Okay? All right. So let's get started. Whoops. Let's get started here. Get some of my paints out. Sorry, I got distracted. All right. Let me set my timer. And we're going to start with I'm just going to start with these two pieces and then we'll come back to that. So I am going to start with just the light or the soft sky color, my lightest blue here. And I'm going to use my baby wipe to rub that paint on. I like to work in light coats. Light coats dry a lot faster so that I can do my second coat fairly quick. And then it also allows me to create more of a smooth finish. If you try and glob it on, you're not going to get a nice smooth finish. It's going to have lots of ridges and things like that. The other tool that I like to have on hand is what I call my stabby tool. I think it's called a piercing tool at the Dollar Tree. You could use a needle, a thumbtack, push pin, whatever whatever you have on hand that has a sharp end that's pointed like this. Um, and what we're gonna use this for is to clean out the score marks. So I really want the score marks to show up on this project more so than others because I feel like it just gives it that dimension that we need. Because this is just a jar, it can be a little more difficult to create a glass look. So what I'm doing is I'm putting my pointed end inside those score marks, and I'm just gently dragging that paint out of it. Kind of looks gray on screen. It is not gray. I have a lot of light coming in my window today, more so than any other day, even though it's not even sunny. All right, so we got those two. Let's get our base coat done on here. So wood is super porous and it loves to just soak up any sort of moisture. It's like a sponge. And so as you're working, if you find that your baby wipe is really getting hard to push that paint around, it's probably because it's dried out. The wood has taken all the moisture from the baby wipe and the paint and dried it out. And it will also start to disintegrate and leave little fibers. So what I do is I'll just go to a new part on the baby wipe that's still got the dampness and start again. And you'll be able to feel how much easier it is to push that paint around when you get a new baby wipe or a new area that's damp. And don't be afraid to use a couple baby wipes if you need to. Okay. Don't over wipe it because you can start to remove the paint. But there we are. So this one's spent. I'm going to toss it and get a new one for the next coat. So before I move on, I'm going to just take a minute and clean out my little score marks here. Like I said, I really want these to pop. And just go slow. Sometimes you'll find you might pop out of the score mark and drag a line on your piece. If that happens, just go back over it with your baby wipe and kind of repaint it. And I'm not using, I'm only using a small amount of pressure. You don't want to give it so much pressure because what will happen is if you pop out and you're pressing really hard, you're going to scratch the surface outside of the line, and that's a little bit harder to fix. It's fixable, but it does take a little more time. You'll have to sand it and then repaint it. Whereas if you're just using a light pressure and you pop out of the line and scratch the surface, you're usually just scratching the surface of the paint, so another coat is going to fix it. All right, there we are. And because I did a light coat, we are dry already. So I'm going to take my sanding block. Next step is to sand it down. Wood is tiny little fibers, and when they get wet, they like to expand. And after painting a surface, you might notice that it feels rough to the touch. That's totally normal. Totally normal. That's a natural occurrence with wood, no matter what you're working with. Some wood, depending on how it is manufactured, especially like plywood, not necessarily like 2x4s and things like that, but plywood or MDF can kind of behave differently. Sometimes you'll find that it feels smooth after painting and you don't need anything, and that might be because there's more glue on the surface as opposed to other areas, which if there's more glue, then it doesn't let the wood expand and it stays smooth. So a little wood 101, I guess, for you. Okay, there we are. Let's do our second coat. I'm going to get a new piece of baby white. I'm not going to get too crazy with some blends on the stand. I just want it to get, I want it to look blue. And you could do your stand a completely different color. You could stain your stand or your stand, and make it look like it's a little table that your mason jar is sitting on. So you can do different things with it. You don't have to make it the same color. All right, now we'll do the rim here. It is so funny how some days my camera picks up different colors. This is looking extremely gray, but it is not. It is a very light blue. All right, before I go on, I am going to clean out my score marks real quick. It's best to clean them out right after you paint the surface. Once it dries, it gets a little more hard to do. So I want to get that paint out while it's wet. So I'm going to do it right after I paint. Let's just see if I get closer. Am I going to get a... Let me see something here. I'll probably mess up my video, but let me see if I can... turn the saturation up and see that blue. I don't know if that helped or not. It still looks super gray to me. Okay. Those pieces are second coat. We're going to do a second coat on here. I'm getting a little thicker with my paint now on my baby white. I also want to mention that I don't paint the edges of my pieces. I like the dark look of the laser cut. I think it just gives it some more dimension. It helps it pop. But you're welcome to paint your edges if you want. That is a artist preference, a creative preference there. All right, now before it dries, so I've got my second coat of blue. I can still see some of the wood grain underneath. What I'm going to do is, a mason jar is rounded like this. Well, it's cylindrical, right? So if we cut it in half, we kind of want it to look like it's rounded. And so right here, I'm going to focus putting some the white. I'm going to blend white in here because this is the closest. This would essentially be the closest part of the jar to us if we stand it upright, right? We've got this going on. So this area is closest to us. The light is going to hit it. It's going to have a reflection. It might show more white there. And then here, the edges here and here, as it goes around, are furthest from us. And so they're going to have a little bit of a darker area. So what I'm going to do is I'm using just kind of that blue area still. I'm not going to get a clean baby wipe, and I'm going to grab some white And I'm going to lightly just drag some color in the center there. Just going back and forth, up and down, kind of expanding that white out. Okay, then I'm going to go and grab the original blue, the sky blue that I have, and kind of go on both sides of that. Softening that up. Okay, then we're going to go down that center again. And I'm going to go get some more of the original blue and then just a little bit of the dark blue on my baby wave and kind of hit these edges. And then also I'm going to take that dark blue and move it around the bottom. This is just a really subtle way to get some color. I'm taking some of that dark blue and going here. Thinking about the rim sitting here, I might have a little bit of shadow under that rim, so I'm going to take some of that blue. Essentially, I'm just outlining it. Softer up here, a little darker here, and then soft down around the bottom. So you can kind of see how that shadow's starting to happen. It looks super harsh right now, but I'm going to get a new baby white because that one's dried out. I'm going to go back to my original color and just work my way and soften that up. Going and I'm kind of moving my finger in circles. Kind of going back and forth. So we're just playing with the two colors here on the edge right now. Softening that line up. Okay. And you don't have to get, it looks pretty harsh right now, but I like that it gives it that shadowed look like this, this is the darkest part of the jar. There we go. So I'm going to add a little more white here. I'm going to start by grabbing the sky blue, my main color, and then adding the white to it. And just going in a circle here and kind of dragging it out. Lightening up that center. And you can also kind of just do this motion where we're creating a curve that way and then a curve this way. So that also indicates that it's rounded. What do you think? Okay, I'm going to go back to my soft sky, my main color. I'm going to grab a little of the dark and I'm going to kind of focus kind of right in this area where my score mark is. I want that to be dark. And if you add too much color or you don't like what's happening, grab a clean part of your baby wipe and just gently brush away any excess color that you might have deposited. I had just a little too much blue there. It was looking super harsh. So I'm going to wipe it away and try again, see if I can soften it up a little bit. I think I like that. I think we're good. Okay. Then the next thing I want to do is add some dark and lights to my rim. Now, another thing I thought about doing was, you know, mason jars have a two-piece rim, or they have the rim and then they have the cap, I believe it's called, the circle part. I think it's a cap. I can't remember. But you could act like this is the metal cap that screws on, and you could do this in a gray and give it some really great different shadows and maybe make it look rusty. So you could do some different things and have it look like the metal rim is on it. I think it's called a rim. I'm not quite sure. But that's an option too. So right now I still have that dark blue on my baby wipe, and I'm going to take that dark and go under each of these lines with it. Okay. Because these lines represent ridges, I want that shadow to be under that, under the lines. Then I'm going to go and I'm going to grab some of my original blue. I always start with that and then grab the other color that I want. So I'm going to do a highlight. So I want white on my baby wipe, tapping some of that off. I don't want it too heavy. And the reason I start with the original color before I grab either the dark or the light is so that I get a good blend. Because as those two colors get rubbed on, they're going to blend and create a color right on my piece that is a mix of the two. So then I don't have to blend it here. I just let this do the work. So let's just see. Yeah, I like that. So we can start to see the shadows and the highlights coming out. And so there we go. So I'm going to glue this up. Where am I at on time? Let's glue this up and then we can add some fun details. So when you're gluing, make sure you're using a clear dry glue. I put the glue down on my piece here because I don't want glue in this section where the tab is. If you do glue this piece and glue gets on that tabbed area, just make sure you don't insert your inserts until it's dry. Okay. But this makes sure that I don't do that. And then I just did a thin line right under the tab. Then we place that on there and I line everything up on the top, kind of stand it up and use my fingers as I'm squeezing those together. I use my fingers here to line up that wood top, and then I'll work on the side here, making sure that these are all aligned, and then give it a good squeeze. Now sometimes after we paint a piece or after it's been cut, sometimes the wood becomes a little bit wobbly or warped, and that's just the nature of wood. If that's the case, if you find like this piece, you can do this and it kind of seesaws back and forth, glue it down and then use a clamp to hold it. That glue will fix any sort of wobble that happens and your piece will flatten out. Okay, so just use something heavy to hold it while the glue sets up. Heavy or a clamp. And then we'll clamp the back or glue the back. And you can also glue it to the stand if you want. I prefer not to because I like to be able to store my items flat. I do have a storage problem because I have so many crabs. I do try and get rid of them, but then I always think, what if I need it for something? Or what if I need it for an example of this? So I try and hold on to all of my samples. but it gets to be a bit much. So for me, storage is important, and so not gluing this in is how I do it. But if you want to give it more stability, you're not needing to store it. I mean, this is going to be up all year round probably for you when you put your new inserts in. So gluing it would be fine. You just want to glue a little bit on the tab there and then on the back side and maybe right in those corners. And then this will just slot right down in there and uh, be set to go. Okay, so then the last thing that I wanted to show you. So what I suggest, if you're wanting to maybe have the words ball on there, or something else, and you're like, oh, I'm not crazy about my own handwriting, you could print out the words. Let me just see if I can find an image of the word ball on something here. Images. Oh, I don't want to buy anything. I just want to see it. So here's a ball jar that's blue. And you can kind of see how it's dark on those edges where the light isn't. So that's kind of what we were going for. But you could essentially print that out and size it in a Word document or something, and then trace it on here and use that as a guide. Or you could just grab a pencil and kind of eyeball it. Let's see how well I can do. And also just doing it in your own handwriting would be awesome too. So you could do that, pencil it in. Can you see that? Maybe not. It's very light. So you could lightly pencil something in. You could put your name in there, really anything you want to do. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a heart because that's kind of what I like. I feel like that's super neutral. And I'm going to use my liner here and my dark, and I'm going to put dark and light on my brush here. And I'm going to just letting those two colors blend while I have them on my brush. So dark, light, kind of gives it a cool effect. I'll have to go in and erase my my ball there, but isn't that cute? My problem with putting letters on things is I always shift them one way or the other. You can kind of see I can't center things very well, so. But anyways, there we are, guys. That is the mason jar base. Next week we will be doing the snowman and one day, and then the home sweet home the next day. And then at the end of the month, you will get next month's Valentine's insert. I'm so excited to show you guys that. But that's that. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, concerns, whatever it may be, feel free to message me. I'm happy to answer your questions and guide you and help you along, but glad you're here. Excited for this little series. And we will chat with you guys later. Happy crafting. Bye.